Hello, welcome to Show Boys. My name is Mike. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a fun episode lined up for you guys. I'm joined here as usual with my good friends and fellow hosts, Pixel Nick and Chadwick III. Nick, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing splendid. May the fourth be with you. Happy Star Wars Day.
Yes. There we go. Live long and prosper.
That's
Um,
horrible.
Awful.
yeah. If anyone's in our Discord or follows our Twitter page,
Oh, I saw.
Mike's a complete
I'm
pile of
joking.
trash.
I'm joking. I know it's Star Wars Day, but I was making Star Trek references all day in response to Star Wars Day things. Anyways, yes, happy May the 4th. Chad, how are you doing tonight, dude?
I'm doing great. I'm here.
Yeah?
I'm here and ready. I
We're
think I'm
doing-
ready. I kind of
we're-
like half understand what we're doing tonight, so I hope I prepared properly.
Well, no, it's good because it's such a wide topic that really anything could apply to the episode tonight in regards to the main point. But yeah, before we went live, we were trying to do some bandana shopping for Chad, trying to find some new fresh looks. So hey, if you're out there and you know of some nice looking bandanas, like tweet at us or send links in our Discord or whatever, or drop comments here on the YouTube video. And let's find Chad some cool bandanas. But yeah, before we get into it tonight, thank you to our top tier patrons, Tim B, Yusuf H, and Joe C. Thank you guys so much for your support. All of our other patrons, you guys are awesome too. And we are very thankful that you are supporting us each month. It means a lot. If you're wondering, Jeff said he'll knit Chad a new bandana. Love it. If you're wondering what Patreon is or how you can support us, you can head over to patreon.com/showboyspodcast. Check it out. We have 4 different tiers of price points you can support us with monthly. Each tier comes with its own, benefits and perks and whatnot. So go check those out. And if you're feeling so kind as to support us financially, you can do that over there, patreon.com/showboyspodcast. It'd be greatly appreciated, and we'd love you forever. So yeah, with that out of the way, we're going to get into an interesting topic that we've kind of had like on the topic calendar for quite some time, but never really got around to digging into it. And Nick brought it up again, and we just thought, hey, let's tackle this. Seems like a good a time as any. So, Nick, I'm going to hand it over to you, let you kind of introduce what we're going to be talking about tonight, and yeah, get us started with the discussion.
Yeah, I always thought this would be a fair topic to cover more at length because I feel like we hit it every other episode in some fashion, anyways. Because whether it's something we've seen or have played and we either loved or hated it, we always have to draw attention to what either the critics said, right? Or what the audience said, or what another kind of like avenue of either popularity or dislike. And I feel like even over the years, especially in the past like 5 years, we've seen a lot of interesting trends here. Because I think we lived happily for like many decades with like no kind of like review or critic kind of pressure, right? Like everyone just kind of went and saw the movies they wanted to see and went about their lives. Then somewhere in like the 2000s, maybe 90s, I feel like we started to have this rise of critics, right? Or people being more kind of collaborative when it came to having a consensus about something. And then, Rotten Tomatoes, all that kind of took over during the internet, right? In the past 20 years, but in the past like 5 years, we've seen the rise of like review bombing. Where people are like literally ganging up online or even creating bots to push right their opinion on something. They hated it that much, or maybe they like it that much. And we've either seen that rightfully so, whether it's a game on launch day that promised you everything and they gave you nothing. They gave you a busted, broken game, or yeah, definitely. That's the main one. It's like the review bombing on the games that deserve it. But then there's the review bombing on like maybe movies or shows, like for some reason that don't deserve it. There's just like something like socially that's causing like a
Yeah.
fair like tanking of something. So it's just like huge, like it's definitely developed where it's way more than just like critic versus audience or anything like that. And there's just so many nuances when it comes to us, anyone else developing like their opinion about something, right? Are you developing that on your own because you just don't care and like you like it? Whether you care about critics or the general consensus or not, you still take that into account because you might really like something, not care at all about that, but you're gonna note it because you'll be like, I thought it was great. They don't know what they're
Yeah.
talking about.
Well, it's hard because if you, I mean, even if you don't read the reviews themselves, but you hear and see on social media people talking about, like, for instance, the most recent one, which was just, a couple days ago, whenever Jedi Survivor came out.
Hmm.
That one, I think, probably rightfully so, having not played it again. So I'm speaking kind of out of touch with this, but allegedly the PC launch was absolutely busted and like borderline unplayable, and it just got demolished.
Yeah, here, bro. This seems to happen with every PC release. The Last
Yeah.
of Us just
Yeah.
went through this too, so it's just like a
Yeah.
common thing there. But
That
Go
one
ahead.
sounds like it was probably deserved, right?
What
But
was it?
then
If that
I've
and
played.
that's a whole
Finish
other
your
can
point.
of
Yeah,
worms
finish
of
your point.
no,
like
yeah.
like just PC releases versus console releases, not even talking about reviews, talking about just the state of games that come out on console and PC, if they are mutually released. But yeah, anyways, or you for example, like Captain Marvel got destroyed audience reviews. And I did see that movie and did think it was actually like pretty garbage. But you see stuff like that floating around on social media, even if you don't read those reviews particularly, those preconceived thoughts are going to be lingering in your mind when you go see that movie or when you load up that game. You're like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe this game is terrible or this movie, everyone thinks it's terrible. I'm not expecting anything great. And that can either help your experience because you can go into with super low expectations and then be blown away and be like, oh, this was actually really good. Like, I'm pleasantly surprised. Or if you're watching or playing one of those movies or games where you're kind of like on the fence, like, yeah, that was okay, but then you have that like already like that seed planted in your brain, you're like, oh yeah, no, that was garbage. But anyway, that's all I was
Yeah,
going into it with.
yeah. I think it usually goes that way. It never goes. I don't want to say it never goes, but if that seed is planted in your head, it's going to go the negative way more often than not. You're not going to see something get
Because people
review
typically
bombed.
bitch about
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my big hang up with a lot of the review bombing is a lot of the review bombing is politically tied. It's almost maybe even all of it has some sort of political tie to it, whether
Yeah.
it's not left enough or it's not right enough and that is like my biggest pet peeve with games media specifically is like, dude, I want to come here to read about games. Don't care
Yeah.
about politics. I don't care about all the other crap that you're talking about. Tell me about the game.
Yeah.
And for critics to be giving bad reviews to certain games that aren't left enough or aren't right enough, it's like ridiculous. And that's really honestly what started me on the path of wanting to do this, because I'm like, I want it to be like it was in the 90s when I was a kid and you would pick up a magazine and read about a game and not hear anything about politics or any of that stuff. But to go to your Jedi Survivor comment, I played like 17 hours of it so far. It's definitely got its issues. It's definitely got its major issues. I don't want to say major, and it sucks because honestly, even with the frame rate issues, I've fallen through the world multiple times.
Oh, jeez.
Little stuff like that. Even with all that stuff, dude, it's probably the best Star Wars game I've ever played. So if it came out and was actually stable at launch, it would have been 10s across the board, 100%, because it got 9s across the board, even with the problems that it has. But yeah, it's buggy. It's definitely buggy. But you also got to look at the scale of this versus Fallen Order. It's massive compared to, I mean, it's like 3 to 4 times bigger than Fallen Order. So it's EA. We should know their stuff comes out buggy and eventually gets fixed. I'm a maniac. I'm not going to wait to play a Star Wars game. That's just how I am. So the PC stuff I think is warranted, but it's like every one of these releases on PC are broken. So do we need to talk about it? Not really. Like we know it's going to be busted on PC, which never makes sense to me because don't they make these games on PCs and then somehow it just doesn't work on PC? I don't know what
I think okay, so they are probably
I can almost
largely made on PC, but I will say whether or not they are made on PC or like dev kit consoles or a combination of both, like they're made targeting certain specifications and like parts, right? And the thing is, like PS5s and Xbox Ones all come with the same major parts, whereas like
yes,
you're developing a game for a PC that could be built in a wide, like much wide range of pieces, parts, all mix and match together. So I would imagine optimizing a game for PC would be like a bajillion times more of a pain in the neck than a console.
Yeah, because the console's like saying, hey, I tuned my car to go on this racetrack. You know, whatever that racetrack is, like I have my car tuned with the tires and the balance, all that stuff to go on this racetrack and win this race. That's what a console is. Whereas like PC's like, all right, run the whole year on it in one like state. Like it's just so hard to do because like people also have like crap configurations or like any graphics card. So yeah, it's all about the hardware that people are running.
Yeah.
Because they know every PS5, every Xbox has this graphics card, this processor, run it, make it hum, make it sing.
Yeah, we'll see. Because it did seem like for a while there, PC releases were like years later. So we'll see if that maybe comes back now that we've had a couple really big name games take a dive on PC. But we'll see. Like I said, Jedi, I don't know how bad Jedi Survivor is on PC. I haven't really looked at anything, but it's kind of, it's teetering the line of bad on console. So I can only imagine what it's like on PC.
Yeah, and I think a lot of aspects of it all comes down to like, I really think we are moving, even though we feel like hyper divided about everything, we are ultimately moving. We are much more hive mind as like a species than we were 40 years ago, right? Because like in the 90s, like everyone had their pocket, everyone went and enjoyed the things they enjoyed because that's really all they knew. But now we all have this like developing like consensus of what something is good or expected to be, and the audience I think is a little less affected by that. Whereas like I feel like the critics are really affected by this like hive mind of what is acceptable.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because if you sit down and start reading the reviews, whether they're good or bad about something, sometimes I feel like they're just dropping a review to get their like critic points in there and like to keep up with the quota. It's like keeping up with the Joneses when it's like time to be a critic. And you'll look at it too, like super divisive movies have way more critic reviews than other movies that are still very good or very bad. They just have less reviews, but for some reason there's like 400 critic reviews on, The Last Jedi. Whereas like another movie that's 20 years older than that movie only have like 100 or 200 critic reviews. So like, it's a thing where they just have to get on there.
Dogpiling. That's what they're doing. Yeah.
Drop their 2 cents and then dip out. They're like, hey, I left my review for that. I thought it was X.
Right.
But I feel like that's another one that's like we talked about a few minutes ago, socially fueled, right? Because we have
I don't think that one is. I think there's elements of it.
Because like we have a female protagonist, right? A female Jedi. So
that existed before though.
But as like the main drive of the movie, and it wasn't The Last Jedi like praised critically.
Yes.
And then like obviously audiences did not jive as much as the critics did, and then that turns into like, oh well, it's just because the audiences hate women and like blah, blah.
That's not, dude. That's not it though, because
That's not it, but
it's not.
that turns into the narrative, and then you're like, oh well, if I don't like this movie, it's probably because I hate women now. Like I can't hate this movie because it's not actually just fundamentally not good. Like
my hang up with that is that Ray feels very forced as a character. Okay,
I see what you did
there are plenty female characters that are awesome from Ellen Ripley from the Alien movies, badass female lead. Princess Leia, awesome female character. I mean, the female thing, I'm so sick of hearing it. It's just Ray sucks. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with her being a female. She's
like
bad.
I feel like that
she's boring.
played into glowing critic reviews.
You're right.
If anyone hates it, it's like, oh, I can't believe you. What's wrong with you? Why do you hate women?
And that's what I can't stand about critics nowadays is that, like I said, it's far worse, I think, in the gaming world because they're just all like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's maybe bleeding into films and TV series as well, because a lot of those sites that do the games are also doing movies and stuff. But I just can't stand it, dude. It's just a political thing. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with nobody is saying that Ray's an awesome character and she's this great, strong female lead, except for the critics that are reviewing the movie and trying to give it a good score. Everybody else is saying she sucks. And it's not because she's a female. It's because we have all these awesome female leads from the same universe too, as well. Padme, Leia, they're all awesome. But for whatever reason, now Star Wars fans hate females because we hate Rey. She just sucks, dude. She's written bad. That's that's all there is to it.
I definitely think it's more that when critic reviews get criticized is when it gets political, because whoever's backing them up finds like the social reason why the audience may not jive with the critics. But to me, when actually reading like the critic reviews on there, to me that movie's problem is less about it's a director thing. Like that got smash awesome critic reviews because it was Rian Johnson and he was like the hot director that they were like pamping around town. And he I think the argument is like he did these like stylistic choices that like brought new life and freshened up Star Wars that like Star Wars never did. But to me, it's more of a principle of, is that what Star Wars sets out to do? Is that what people want to see? If I want to see a Rian Johnson film, I'm going to go watch a Rian Johnson film, because like Knives Out, those, like, to me, they're not anything like unique to the franchise. What are those? Those are Rian Johnson films. Like, that's what it is. Just like there's Peele Films, whatever his first name is. You know what I mean? Like, they don't, something like, to me, Star Wars, like, you can't just step in as a director and be like, I'm going to put my director Salt Bae all over it and be like fresh. It's like, no, dude.
Not when you're doing abrasive stuff, like not throwing a lightsaber fight in there just to not throw a lightsaber fight in and do something different. Not when you have that excuse. I'm fine with you putting your spin on it. I think the directors of Rogue One, whoever they were, put their spin on Star Wars. And I think they did a great job. But yeah, dude, I don't know. We talked about it. I don't hate The Last Jedi as much as everybody else. I'm somewhere probably in the middle, but I just like Star Wars. But it's for me, it's Rey that just holds everything back. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a dogpiling thing. And it's to the point now where if I watch a review, which is kind of few and far between now since I started doing this, I don't really go and do that because I want to develop my own opinion. But if I am, and if there is a sentence in there that is politically charged in any fashion, I immediately turn it off. I'm like, I'm just not here for that. That's not what I'm here for. I don't want to hear about it. Yeah. I'll go to CNN or Fox or whatever politics place I want to go to.
Politically driven movie, like the content is of that subject matter, then sure, I'll care about that like slant of your opinion of the movie. But if I'm going to see Star Wars or I'm going to play a Harry Potter game, I don't really care. I just want to play Harry Potter or watch Star Wars. But I wanted to ask, I wanted to say one thing and then ask a question off it. So personally, I find it hard to trust reviews because I have deep-rooted trust issue. No, because
Which reviews? Critic or audience or everything?
reviews from major publications, even if they're like indie publications, but have like either a lot of subscribers on YouTube, like they got the YouTube check mark, or like from an up and coming like syndication or whatever. Because when my wife was influencing on Instagram, a lot of times we get offers from companies. They would send us free stuff and then just be like, hey, just go give us a good review on Amazon. And that's just, stuff on Amazon, which again, I don't really trust the reviews on Amazon because I was part of this machine.
Yeah.
We would write reviews. We would write our reviews honestly. But you can get free stuff if you review products. And I imagine very similarly, these, companies, like I'm not throwing any particularly under the bus. I'm just using these names because they pop into mind, like IGN, Screen Rant, New Rockstars, places like that, whose entire thing is reviewing movie shows, games, etc. I'm sure that some of these publications get some sort of kickback from studios or, projects giving good reviews. So for me, when I want to look for somebody's opinion on a game or a movie or a show, I'll try to find something like this, like a small podcast, or if it's like a game, I'll hop on Twitch and try to watch somebody playing it. Is the streamer having fun, and does the game look appealing to me? Okay, cool. I'm going to try it out. Instead of hopping on like IGN, for example, and reading what they have to say about War Tales.
The whole pay thing kind of explains why Guardians of the Galaxy is 3 is sitting with an 80%. Obviously, it's fresh out, right? Brand new, but it has an 80%, but it also has the certified fresh sticker, which I only thought really, really highly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like the certified fresh sticker has turned into like, we got paid to make it just put the certified fresh on it.
Yeah. So for the longest time, I thought this was a thing, and I'll speak on IGN because I have heard stories of IGN, and I have heard from a person who, let me try to frame this properly. It is a guy that left IGN to start his own YouTube channel, was kind of blacklisted by games media, hated by games media really as a whole. And he has said that has never happened at IGN. So if there's one person that's going to come out and say, yeah, we were getting kickbacks, it's definitely this guy. He has said multiple times that none of that was high. He was very relatively high ranking at IGN as well. You also have to remember that a lot of these publications, especially the big ones, are already getting all the stuff free anyway. So I think the novelty of getting the game for free wears off when you're getting every single game for free. It's like, it's just how it is.
The cool thing I like about games, and where games I think stand out from like movies and TV, right? Movies and TV are more subjective art, right? So putting like hard metrics to measure the goodness of like a show or TV is hard. You can do it, right, with a lot of like definitions and putting stuff in a box. But like games, it's like a car. Like, does it literally drive well? Does it literally function correctly, right? So like games I like because IGN or whoever can put out like it's 100% like best game of the year, blah blah blah. But like gamers are gonna sit down and play that game. They're gonna be like, that's a bunch of shit, because like literally like there's drag, you know what I mean? Like whatever the technical stuff is, you can tear games apart technically if they are not built right. So that's what I like about games is like, and that's and I was gonna talk about Steam later at some point, but like Steam reviews, I live much more off of Steam reviews than I, for a game than I would like a movie review. Like I don't like rarely care about movie reviews for like actual value. Whereas like Steam reviews, like I can actually like determine if I'm gonna like a game from like enough Steam reviews.
Yeah, well, I think it's also more important games wise because they're a lot more expensive than going to watch a movie, right? You know, you want to make sure you're not dumping $70 on a game that's busted and is going to be like Anthem at launch. But
Yep.
I think that's definitely another layer of it. But yeah, I don't know. After I heard this specific person say that, I'm like, dude, if they're getting kickbacks, this guy would know about it. He talks mad smack about them, so there's no way that he would hide it. You know what I mean? And say like, oh yeah, there's no way because they're kind of like, you know, they totally blacklisted him. So, yeah, and I don't know. I would imagine along with the free games, they're already getting a ton of free crap. So it's just like that. I feel like the novelty of getting free stuff wears off, and it's not going to really affect your review. You know,
for obviously people who aren't like, you know, 10,000 follower influences on Instagram and like actually huge companies. Again, I'm not like accusing IGN. I just use them because they're the only ones that like pop into my mind as one that I know of. Like obviously they're not going to be like, oh, you gave us a free game, we'll give you a review, but more like, oh, you gave us like $50,000 to review your game like pretty well, or like insert a number of money. Again, not saying that's happening. I'm just saying those would be the kind of kickbacks I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like what you said there, Nick, about the difference between movies and shows and games, because you know games have the action, the active participation that movies and shows don't. So like there, like you said, while movies and shows like review critics and stuff like have criteria and things that they like to talk about,
it's all subjective art.
Yeah, exactly. There are fundamental things that must work in a game,
right,
for people to actually be able to utilize it, right? So
yeah,
a game review is much easier to go off of because somebody had to actually operate it and like play through it.
Yeah,
I think there's more integrity in the gaming community too, because for gamers take that stuff seriously, and especially if you're trying to be like an influencer, it would take a lot more for someone to pay you than just like a free version of the game to give it a good review, because a free version of the game that you're probably going to buy anyways isn't going to make you leave a good review when it's actually bad, because people are going to be like, dude, you said this game was awesome, it is complete trash, and like I can like mechanically say like this game is busted, and you can't you're not going to put your neck out there and be like, oh no, it's an awesome game, I liked it. Like,
right.
Like gamers aren't going to do that. Whereas like for a movie or show, yeah, if someone gave me like $100, I would convince myself to give Last Jedi like 100%. Like, yeah, best movie I ever seen. $100, it's that easy for a movie.
Yeah, and
show.
it's really hard to disprove, like you said, the subjective
right
part of it.
And it's not going to damage my opinion when it comes to like a different movie I review next, because they were like, oh yeah, gave Last Jedi 100. I'm going to give the next movie an honest opinion. It doesn't matter because they don't, you know, my opinion of one does not like make me a better opinionator of the next thing. Whereas like gaming, it's like, dude, you don't know how to play games. Like that's where gamers are gonna go.
Opinionator.
I
love it.
Yeah,
that should be our new tagline.
Yeah,
boys, best opinionators on the internet. And I think like going back to critics versus audience reviews, particularly when it comes to movies or shows, I feel like a lot of times critics, like sometimes I wonder what they're judging some like genres of movies and shows against, like for example, Jurassic World, again, just pulling one out of my butt because like it's an extreme example. This movie is not going to hit all the benchmarks for like technical prowess, like transcending genres, like world-changing story, massive character development, things that a lot of critics look for in like, you know, your Sundance reviews or like your your indie like showcases and stuff like that. It's like people go to this movie to see giant CGI dinosaurs fight each other. Like,
Yeah, right.
did it do that good?
I think there's
Okay.
definitely,
You know what I mean?
there's definitely a break between like the action movie blockbusters where they're just like mindless movies that you go to watch that seem to, I don't want to say universally review well, because one of the movies that I am going to talk about should have been, and it didn't review well. But there's definitely a line between those, the Marvel movies that seem to always review well, and the actual good movies with all that stuff you were talking about.
Yeah.
While I kind of like at first highlighted like this like hive mind in terms of like this universal criteria of what's good or bad, it's almost I could make the argument that there isn't maybe enough of a good baseline for movies and shows, because to me what always confuses me is like, okay, why do we set out or why do critics set out and they decide, we're going to review Jurassic World off of the fact that it's a good blockbuster action flick. Ignore all the other stuff that we normally review movies about. Yet we'll turn around and review something like Transformers completely out of its pocket and be like, story
Demolish
sucks,
it. Yeah.
bad acting. It's like, what are you talking? Like,
we're going to see CGI cars that turn into robots fight each other. Come on, guys.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just sometimes they decide that they're gonna like rate it in its lane, and other times they'll be like, it's not in these other lanes, so it's like garbage. It's like,
yeah,
why do you not like it? Like, why aren't you treating all the blockbuster action CGI stuff equally?
See, Joe gets it. He says those dinosaurs were really good actors,
so
though.
Good.
See, the way that T-Rex sold that one scene, dude, I could just feel it.
It's because they have a like a zoo simulator for Jurassic World now. I've almost bought it because
they do. It looks
because
cool.
there's an actual like zoo one. This company made the actual zoo one, and it got awesome reviews because the animals have like a little bit of like AI. Like it's a smart game. It's deep, but they turned around and did the Jurassic World ones and just did the same thing with dinosaurs. So obviously it's gonna be better,
right?
Wow, that sounds rad.
So if only there was like a Transformer like world where like game simulator, maybe it would do better. I don't know.
So do you guys okay, so Nick already said for games he kind of does go off of reviews, at least
Steam,
PC, like Steam stuff.
Yeah.
But in general, are you guys review people, or do you like to go in kind of with a blank slate and figure out your opinions for yourself? Start with you, Chad.
Yeah, I'm like somewhere in the middle. I used to be a really big review guy, like read every single review of every game that I want to buy. But it has kind of transitioned to the point where I just like maybe check the score on the day the embargoes lift just to see where we're at and if I'm going to buy it. And then outside of that, no, I don't really anymore, primarily because I'm doing this and I want to go in as fresh as I can. But I need to know that like I should buy this. And it saved me a couple times. Cyberpunk 2077 saved me from purchasing that. Totally busted at launch. So I'll probably still stick to the just skimming through the scores. But yeah, I don't really read reviews anymore. I don't really watch review videos that often. Not nearly as much.
It really depends on the subject matter, right? So obviously I'll go see any Star Wars movie, like regardless of what happens, right? Review wise. I might maybe like use a little bit like the high level macro of what's going on in the review world to go in with a little bit of armor. But like they came out with a Warcraft 2, like terrible critic reviews, right? Decent audience reviews. I don't care about what audience says. I don't care about what the critics say. I don't care about what like my friends say. Like I'm gonna go see the Warcraft movie because I want to go see it because I'm hoping it's gonna be like the first one. So it really depends, because then there's movies like I haven't seen a lot of the Jordan Peele movies, right? I kind of just see those in passing as like I just stumble across them on like a streaming service. So I usually just roll against those popular opinions on that. So if everyone loves it, I'm just gonna be like, it's probably crap, so I'm not gonna watch it. I'm really kind of all over the place in terms of when I will use and not use. So I guess that maybe means I am not like a review person because I use them so flippantly. I kind of treat them just like fodder to fuel my ability to talk about things. So I could probably like completely trash or rave on something, just gathering some reviews and being like, yeah, it gets me most of the way there.
What about you, Mike? You're muted, brother.
Yeah, look at you. Messed up. Still muted.
Oh
What's
my
wrong with
gosh,
him?
I'm still
Yeah.
muted. Joe says, "I'm just kidding. Never saw that crap. Had bad reviews."
That's
talking about
funny.
Jurassic World.
Ha ha.
And Jeff, Dad, the producer, backstage, he says, "I'm with Chad. I'm somewhere in the middle. If I go anywhere, I might check IMDb. I also do care more about Steam reviews, like Nick."
Yeah.
I gotta
Steam
say,
people.
for movies and shows, like, I don't know the last time I looked at a review before. I saw
0.
something.
Yeah.
And I'll go as far as like not watching trailers most of the time. I won't like turn away if like an ad pops up, but I'm not like actively searching out like, oh, what's this trailer? I got to see. Most of the time, like if it's written by somebody I've liked stuff from, or directed by somebody I've liked stuff from, or has actors that I've liked in things, or this one sentence summary of the movie or show sounds interesting, I'll check it out and form my own opinion. Games, also, I'm just not a review guy across the board. I might check Steam reviews just to see if it's like
overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, if it's like actually playable. But as far as like the actual content, like I like to try to go into things as even keeled as possible. And when it comes to gaming, this was like a discussion in Discord earlier this week too. I think it came up because of Redfall, another one that kind of got blasted.
Yeah,
on release.
That looks it looks real busted. Kind of took the attention away from Jedi Survivor, which was nice.
Yeah. Well, like Biosiv was talking with Chef in Discord, which if you're in our Discord, you'll know those names they should sound very familiar to you. They're talking about Redfall, it being busted. Civ was watching someone play it on Twitch, and he's like, it actually kind of looks fun. I ended up going home, changing his stream plans from Red Dead Redemption 2 to trying out Redfall, and really enjoyed himself. And it was like, this game's actually really fun. I'm going to keep streaming it. I really like it. I don't know why everyone was complaining so much. And then Joe, he's here in the chat too. He's also streaming Redfall, or at least streamed it once like a day or two ago. And in the stream also seemed like he was enjoying himself and having fun. But yeah, it just, Civ was saying, I went watch somebody.
They're just trying to ride the wave. That's all they're doing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. They got to get them views, get those people to the channel. But all that to say, like, I like to go, if there's a game I'm interested in, I'll look it up on Twitch, watch streamers play it, and see, are they actually enjoying it? Does the game look fun to me? And then that's kind of it. Joe says he plays his games based on whether or not it's at the library. That's true. If a Switch game is available at my library, I most likely will borrow it and play it. But yeah, not a big review guy myself. Jeff says, what about trends like on Facebook or YouTube? If something blows up over social media, how do you guys feel about that? Does it help sway your thoughts on something? No, this was something I was going to bring up though. It will generate interest for me to either, if it's a game, go check it out on Twitch, or if it's a movie or show, like figure out what it's about, and then I'll go watch it. What about you guys? Does social media chatter sway you?
I think it really depends on like the context of it. If people, I feel like I'm more inclined to have more interest in something. People are like, yeah, that movie was awesome, go see it, versus like people that are out there putting like balls of text, like really trying to really trying to church it up, I might be that'll probably turn me off, because I feel like they're trying to convince an agenda or something where I'm like, if it's good, it's good. Just say it's good, and I should go watch it. Don't write me a book about it. So I think it's usually the context, and that's usually an indicator if there is something like more, like social behind it too. Like when people are putting more words to it, usually there's like a lot more context they're trying to convey there, right? Versus just a good wholehearted like good movie. Like go see it, it's awesome, it's fun. Versus like, oh, it was great. It's because of this, that, and that, and the other, and I blah blah blah. So I think I would say I'm slightly, especially if it's like people I know, and I trust that like almost the most. But I still feel subject to like if it's being pushed a little too hard and it's usually something I don't watch anyways, I'm not gonna go see it.
Chad.
Yeah, it depends if I already have slight interest in it. If I don't have slight interest in it, it doesn't really matter what's on YouTube or Facebook or anything. But I'll use like Elden Ring as an example, a game that I was interested in playing, but probably wasn't going to get around until it was burning very bright on all social media. I mean, it's like every other thing on Facebook was something about Elden Ring.
Yeah.
So that definitely swayed me. Control's another one that was burning pretty bright when it came out. But yeah, if the interest is there, it doesn't really matter. And if the interest isn't there, videos really aren't going to sway me more often than not, or any kind of social media talk.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to like the whole review bombing thing. Like sometimes I feel like it's just like the trend, right? Like it's just the hot thing to do to get on and like just like go bomb something. Whereas and like that stuff I think is just kind of, that's not helpful in any like particular sense. And I also almost don't, well, I won't get into that now, but like something like War Tales, recent good example of this. Mike obviously talked about it for like at least a week or two, right? Really churched it up. Generally ignored it.
Like he does all things I say, pretty
like
much.
all things Mike says, right? So, but it puts like a lot, like the feelers out there, right? So then, I think then there's some more talk in the Discord about War Tales, and then Mike actually starts showing like there's like a particular screenshot of his in game, right? And then I went to Steam and started like reading through the reviews and watching I really like when the dev team streams it. Not that they're particularly like interesting about it, but I do just get to see some like really passive gameplay for it while I read reviews. And then I was able to decide that like, yeah, this is definitely a game like I would be interested in, and I want to kind of like step into it and like figure it out. So the same thing can kind of happen when like it's like really light pressure, where it's like I hear really good things about it, but no one's like really like egging me on to like buy it. So there's like a fine line that I walk, especially when, and you also have to catch me at the right time when I'm feeling like I want to step into the new game. So I don't buy a new game every day. So
yeah. I think as far as your review bombing thing, I know, I think at least it sounds like you guys lean more towards the audience than the critics on most things. If you're going to go to a review, are you going to a smaller publication or the audience for your reviews?
It depends. When it comes to movies or shows, it depends on what type of movie or show it is. If it's like your blockbuster AAA experience, I don't care what critics have to say because I know what I'm getting into. But if I'm going, for example, I'll use like A24. If I'm browsing, looking around for an A24 movie, I'll check out critic reviews because those are more abstract, like artsy, technical films most of the time. And I do like to hear what critics have to say about that stuff because they know more about that stuff than I do. So, or I'll like watch one of those movies and in my dumb, like feeble mind be like, what the heck did I just watch? And I'll go like read a critic review and be like, oh yeah, now it all makes sense. I know, I understand what they're trying to do. It's amazing. But yeah, so it all depends really, like what the content or type of material I'm getting into.
I had a similar thought earlier. I think it was something Chad asked like at the beginning. But if I watch something and I don't know like what I've watched, or like I don't really have a solid opinion on like what happened, then go to the critic reviews and then be like, I'll see who has the better argument. I'll be like, all right, is this, did I watch something good? Did I watch something bad? And usually I'll just kind of lean toward like whatever the more like exciting or fun opinion of it would be. Or sometimes like maybe it's not even, not, I wouldn't say exclusive to critics, but even just general reviews, like when people are talking about something and they will point out like the thing I'm looking for in my mind that's like, I can't quite place it. Like, what did I just watch? And sometimes that's helpful because, like Mike said, they do know more about that stuff in some regard. And it's like, what did I just watch? Like, it doesn't fit anything I've seen before. So it's like, in what was this thing trying to do, right? And like, I think mostly at that point I've enjoyed it right enough to like receive it, because otherwise you just reject it. So I think at that point you're kind of more on the fence of like, I need to understand what I just watched, less than like it wasn't good or bad.
And let me just like build off of that a little more, maybe add some context, and maybe this is kind of what you mean by the whole like understanding what I just watched. A lot of times movies like that will make me feel certain ways, and I'm like, why did this movie make me feel this way? And then I go read a review and I'm like, I see like all the technical things and like the reasoning why like they use this particular camera angle and like this shot of like that's not normal and widely used across, film or whatever, or the way they did this certain thing to convey this certain emotion. I'm like, oh, now I understand why the movie made me feel the way I feel. Like, and that makes me appreciate it so much more because of the technical stuff that went into it. But yeah, like back to what reviews I go to. As we were talking, I was thinking like about what I just said about critic reviews. When I go to audience reviews, it is mainly for the blockbuster stuff, because oftentimes those maybe aren't as appreciated as some of the more artsy stuff by critics. So I'll maybe lean more towards the audience opinion of those movies. With exception, though, Marvel movies, I don't listen to the audience because they're most of the time just fanboying, fangirling over Marvel movies.
And
I'm like, this movie is every Marvel movie is a cookie cutter template. Like, I know exactly what's going to happen at every moment of this movie. That's not good. Like, it's not good.
Right. I
liked Eternals.
Opposite
I never saw
example of this is I will never look at an audience review of a DC film because for whatever reason, audiences absolutely despise and hate DC movies. I particularly enjoy DC movies for the most part. There are some crappy ones, but for example, Batman vs Superman's in like my top 5 movies of all time, and audiences hated that movie. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies ever. I will not listen to an audience review of a DC movie because I know they're going to be slanted in the negative direction. And then you have movies
you got right where I was trying to funnel you.
Yeah. And then
where it was leading you. Yeah.
You hit the Star Wars franchise and like, I don't know what to trust on either side because there's the fanboys and fangirls. And then there's the people who have loved Star Wars for so long that they, like Jordan, just hate everything.
Yeah,
so like,
right.
I don't know what to make heads or tails of this. Is this good or
Yeah.
bad? Like, the audience simultaneously like thinks it's the greatest thing ever and also the worst thing ever. So I'm just not even gonna look. I'm just gonna watch it and determine for myself.
Yeah, and that's why I really like that Filoni exists today, and it also frames in the context like George's role. So that's where I always go with Star Wars. Is Star Wars has like technical elements that are Star Wars that you kind of have to stick to that formula. And it's when you start to break out of that formula and you start breaking the rules of like Star Wars is when
That
like you
things
get
go
in the
bad,
rough
yeah.
you get in the rough territory. So that's the thing, like Star Wars can't be measured amongst anything other than Star Wars. Right? You can't say it was better or worse than anything outside of its realm. You can only rank all of that stuff on the same spectrum that is Star Wars. And maybe that's how we should also do Marvel and DC. But the problem is like those are kind of like open-ended enough for whatever reason that one side, and that's an interesting thing you point out, that DC audience trends to the negative. Marvel usually trends to the positive unless it's the one or two movies that like are complete stinkers.
Yeah, unless they have like female leads, then
Yeah.
everyone hates it.
The
No,
Star
I
Wars
think
is
that's
completely
because
like
they're the
flippant.
same people reviewing both. So everyone who loves Marvel movies then goes and reviews DC movies negatively because they're not Marvel movies.
Yeah, see that, and that right there is where I was leading you, specifically with console games, because I never look at audience reviews for any game, because you always know that if it's a PlayStation exclusive, the Xbox people are going to come and review bomb it. If it's an Xbox exclusive, the PlayStation people are going to review bomb it. So I typically, and you can hate me for it, but I really do line up pretty similar to IGN's opinions on most games, and it's been like that throughout my life. If they liked a game, typically it's a game that I'm going to like. So I always, when I was doing the reviews, it was always IGN, and it was never, especially after The Last of Us Part 2 came out and all that debacle happened, and they did the like 2-week, you can't put an audience review until 2 weeks after or whatever the game is released. I think that's really smart because it lets the kind of burning hot dogpiling kind of trail off after 2 weeks. You know, people move on to something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got right where I was kind of funneling you there with my question. So
good job. Look at you. It's like you've podcasted
little Inception,
for a little while.
Little Inception, yeah.
You bring up the console stuff, and I just want to. This doesn't have anything to do with reviews, but an interesting video surfaced today. Phil Spencer.
I saw something about it, but I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, it's like a maybe 3-minute long video from the Xbox showcase today or whatever. And here are some bullet points. He said, I watched the video, so I heard him say this stuff. Xbox has a different vision and won't, quote, out console Sony and Nintendo.
Yeah, that's clear.
Quote, we lost the worst generation to lose, the Xbox generation, or Xbox One generation, where everyone built their digital library of games. Quote, there's no world where Starfield is 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. I posted this in our Discord, and like, you have to watch the video, one, because it's like, I gotta give him props because he knows like where Xbox sits.
Yeah, that's
just spitting. He's just telling the truth.
Yeah.
And it's great because it lines up with what Bios has been speculating about for a while, that basically he envisions Xbox just moving away from console in general and just being Game Pass, like a Steam-like service that is provided to gamers. But you have to watch the video. It's great because he's saying all this and like obviously not in like a happy peppy way. And there's 3 other people like on this panel, and it looks so awkward.
Oh,
they're just
like, bro. He's like, oh my god,
we're on an Xbox showcase. What's this guy saying?
So good, dude.
He's literally burning this to the ground right now.
Dude, that's funny because first off, I'm not the biggest. I'm not his biggest fan. He's like the CEO dude that wears t-shirts under his blazer to look cool with the gamers.
With jeans.
But
come on, dude.
But I have been kind of talking mad crap about Starfield, even though I'm slightly excited for it. It looks like it could potentially be a terrible game, and he's even saying it. He's even saying like, "There's no way it's going to be an 11 out of 10 game."
What his point is, that kind of went off the back of like Xbox failing at the the crucial generation where people kind of made the shift more towards digital from physical, where digital games on PS4 are carried over to PS5. And so no one's going to just be like, that one, like, it doesn't even have to be Starfield. That one game is going to make me abandon these 40 games that I already have and love in my digital library. I'm not going to sell my PlayStation to buy an Xbox for XYZ game because I already have 50 amazing games over here. Like, he's admitting that
the war
Xbox's library of games has been absolutely garbage over.
Dude,
you know,
I tell you, man. Yeah, I tell you, I was right about to buy a Series X, and I got on and looked at like their exclusives, and there's nothing, bro. There's nothing of value, and it shocked me. I was like, because when I made the switch from 360 to PS3, there was a massive amount.
Yeah,
dude, there was a massive amount of exclusive games to play.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that I would get more than Halo, Forza, and Gears. But there's really nothing that I would play on that side. So it totally turned me off. But I will agree that they did probably lose the most crucial. He's at least smart to say that because he at least sees it.
Yeah. Another
yeah,
interesting quote that he said that just like hits so hard and just really tells you the state of Xbox. He states they can never make the games that Nintendo and Sony do. I think Sony, obviously a no-brainer, but if you're admitting that you can't even be on par with Nintendo's games,
I mean, you don't. Well, here
that's not the technical games. That's the IP games. They can't.
No,
they can't
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You can't stay on par with a console that lives on the backs of IPs that are like 40 years old
and is
that
half
literally
as powerful
do nothing.
As the Series X.
Yeah, that literally do nothing new, with the exception of the last two Zelda games.
They got
those
nothing.
Ones have broken the mold. Outside of that,
throw the towel.
It's not like any Nintendo IP is doing anything new and innovative outside of those two Zelda games. And you can't compete with that.
You can tell. You can tell. Listen, you could tell that this was a thought for a while now. As they're buying these studios, as they're buying Activision, as they're buying studios that are already established, you could tell that they even think internally that they can't compete with the other two consoles. So they're just going to buy the major IPs and bring them onto Xbox. So it makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say that I ever think that Xbox is going to throw in the towel and just become a Game Pass machine. It doesn't make sense to me for them to do that. I think they need to make some new games like every other major manufacturer is doing right now. You know, I mean, Nintendo's cranking out exclusives, PlayStation's cranking out exclusives, Xbox just not cranking them out, and that's the problem. There's just not the turnover of constant reason to go buy an Xbox. And Starfield, for the longest time for me, was probably going to be that reason until they showed the gameplay. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, maybe it's cool, maybe it's not, but I don't know if that's a console selling thing. And they're even saying that it's not. Yeah. So I guess I guess
go
I
find the
video
clip, guys, or you could just join our Discord. And
it was all over. It was all over. There were people like defending him. So I had no context to it. I just knew that he said something.
No,
so
it's pretty great. You should check it out.
I mean, I think that goes back to like the comment that gamers are a tougher crowd, right, across the board than your moviegoers. Like moviegoers will sit in chairs and watch a movie for 2 hours and they like pamp out over popcorn and they go home and go to bed. Gamers, like, it's an intense crowd. So to me, it was probably smarter of him to do that than try to have some weird veil that Xbox isn't going
that they're
in
pretending.
That direction.
Yeah, right.
He needs to just come out and say it to at least to save the whole, like, because they can see right through it and everyone sees, we've been seeing right through it. So he just needs to come out and own it and then just admit that's the direction of Xbox so everybody can like pick up and go on with their lives. Because your Xbox people, you have to still make the consoles because you have your Xbox console people, period. Like they're always going to have it. So they're going to still make consoles. They're just going to shift their priorities, right? And the Xbox console just isn't going to be, you're not going to buy it for exclusives anymore. There's going to be other Microsoft driven reasons to like own it.
Yeah,
So
I will admit that I think that what Xbox does really good is giving you the ability to play old games and play them really well and run them really well, which PlayStation doesn't at the moment do that. There are games that are running at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck that aren't running at 30 FPS on the PlayStation. So they definitely got that on lock. But the problem with that is that not a lot. I mean, there are probably a lot of people that want to go back and play old games, but it's not, from my knowledge at least, and from what I see, it's not PlayStation people because they have so much new stuff coming out. It's not Nintendo people because they have so much new stuff coming out. Outside of Mike, who wants to go and play the old Pokemon games or whatever, you're gonna have that crowd. But yeah, I don't know. It could become just a backwards compatibility console. You know what I mean? It's where you go to play old games. Does that sell? Clearly it doesn't. It's not right now. I mean, it's not this generation. You can look at the numbers. It's not selling. So is it going to carry them through the long term? I don't think it's going to. I think their better plan is to start making some new games on top of that, because then you have a fighting chance. You have new stuff coming out, but you also have all the old stuff that you're running really well. All the games are running really well. You can play them on a console somewhere, and it's Xbox, but we also have something besides Halo, Gears, and Forza.
Yeah. And I think they need to lean into what that company does best, and they make the most popular operating system on the planet. So, and what do most people play Steam games on? Windows,
Right.
which is completely integrated with Xbox. So I think that's kind of like their future is they need to release all those games on Steam, release them all on Game Pass, all on PC. They just need to get out of the whole Xbox exclusive business because they're Microsoft. Why would they release their games just on a console when they own the Windows that PC gamers?
Yeah, I mean
play on?
they're already doing that. I'm not
Right.
saying specifically they just need new games. That's the point. They need new first party games. That's the only way that these companies survive. You could look at Sega as an example.
But to do that and be successful, they need to lean into the PC gamer crowd. They need to naturally to their business, like it just sheds the idea of a console completely. Whereas like Sony, they don't have computers and all that crap.
But it's that's a fine line because that could quickly transition to just becoming Game Pass is just an app that you get on Nintendo, you get on PlayStation, and you could get on Xbox if for whatever godforsaken reason you want to buy an Xbox now that they're not making any new games. New games drive console sales. I don't think Game Pass is selling it. And I mean, you can look at the numbers. It doesn't look like they are either.
Because you can get Game Pass on PC.
And you can get it on PC, right? So if they want, and here I despise Xbox. They burnt every bridge that I've ever built for them. So don't take my opinion for anything. It would be detrimental to them to just focus on Game Pass. I think it would collapse the Xbox. That's how I take it. Outside of Xbox as a console specifically. Outside of putting it on Nintendo, putting it on PlayStation, just becoming the app that you play, and you're still getting money because you're still getting the subscriptions. But I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to stay in the console war, like you gotta, like you said, new games,
you need
exclusive
new stuff,
to Xbox are gonna make people buy that. But let's reshift here back into the
right. So what game will Microsoft release that will how will that review that will make you buy an Xbox? Like what would it take? 10. Like would it take like audience and critics united being like this is the best game on earth? Or
so Starfield has a very high chance of forcing me to do it because I'm wildly into space. It's a space game. It's an open world space game. It looks really cool, but I don't know if it would sell a console for me, even knowing all this stuff, even though that game is like made for me. I don't care if it reviews really good by the critics, audiences love it. I don't know if that's one game is going to sell me
Yeah.
an Xbox.
I think that's the thing. You need like a handful of those
It's
games
not- yeah,
that
Or someone
review
like, yeah,
like
and
crazy.
but like the games Chad plays, they're single player games, RPGs mostly, that he can like pour himself into, but not really to the point where it's like an MMO scale of pour himself into. Like I've never seen Chad like be like, I've played like 400 hours of this game. And I guess like if Starfield somehow promised that, where like, would you even be the temperament to go that deep on a game if it's like
Yes.
endless?
If
Like
if it's
you would let it
endless,
own you for like a year?
no, yeah, I'm definitely not that kind. Yeah, I'm not that kind of gamer.
Right.
I play basically every major release, so there's not really any way to be that kind of gamer. I don't, and that's kind of how you are, right? Like you're just dumping mass amount of hours into Valheim and your 4X games, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like a buy 3 games a year and play them all year long.
Yeah. Heavy hours into like 2 or 3 and then like peppered onto like
So
other things.
I definitely appreciate games that are that big because I build myself my content bubble and then I'm in it for months and it's sweet and I'm watching all kinds of new movies I never watched, new shows and all that stuff. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, Starfield to me looks like a No Man's Sky ripoff, and I was
Right.
not jiving really with No Man's Sky, even though I really should have been. So another one that the critics seem to despise at launch that did really, really well down the road. But
Yeah, and
it's
that's another phenomenon that we can talk about. Go ahead though.
I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot because of the trailers that they've shown of Starfield have made it look very similar to No Man's Sky. And you can disagree with me on that if you want. There's comparison videos you can watch out there where it looks very similar. So I agree with Mike. It's going to take a consecutive amount of critically acclaimed games for me to finally say, okay, it's time to get back into Xbox. It's not probably going to be one game.
They need an
Although
Elden Ring.
they need a
They
well,
well,
the thing is it could definitely be Starfield and Elder Scrolls together would force me probably to buy an Xbox, but we'll see. Yeah. Bethesda
Yeah.
games, to go back to our review stuff, they just don't review very well anymore.
No.
Like not like they used to. They're always busted. So it's going to be more than a Bethesda game to get me to jump ship. And I wouldn't jump ship. I would tie the ship to my PlayStation.
Yeah, you just merge two ships together.
Right.
And on the topic of the whole, not the review bombing, because it's rightfully so, because these games that come out like No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk, where like they're literally not complete, they're busted, and there's like they're rightfully so, like basically everyone's saying like don't spend your money here, like at least for the next like 3 years. But there are the ones that make the comeback. But in all that, I never pick up on I never pick up on critic reviews when it comes to games. I always just hear the audience being very loud.
Yeah, because
so
gamers
like
are very loud. That's why, yeah.
Yeah, so like while you're talking, I was like, I don't really even have like an idea of what the critic opinion of like Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky was at launch. Maybe I could go figure it out now, because I do like finding the articles that are like, this game 3 years later, should you play it?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, because it's an awesome game now because they spent 3 years fixing it, and that's usually a good promising aspect too. If they spend that much time fixing it, I like to think that it's a good quality fix up too.
Yeah, my hang up with gaming audiences and their reviews is they seem to bitch either way. And what I mean is they seem to bitch when a game gets delayed, okay? But they also bitch when they don't delay it and release it broken. Now, where I get a little mad is when a game gets delayed. What happened?
You're not an idiot. Mike turned his camera
Yeah,
off.
I went to mute my camera.
Okay.
Let me explain this real quick. I had to burp, okay? We're just going to talk about the elephant in the room, okay? You probably just heard me burp. In StreamYard, the mute and stop camera buttons, 2 different buttons, side by side. I went to hit mute and turned my chair right as I was clicking.
Oh, fatal
and it
mistake.
moved to stop cam. So instead of
You just put
preventing you
Nick's
all from
picture up
hearing
and
my
burped.
burp, you instead did not see my face as I burped right next to the microphone. So sorry about that.
Sorry, go on, Chad.
I
I
can't
wasn't
give you
calling
too
you
much-
an idiot either.
Yeah, I can't give you too much crap because I do that all the time with my nose spray.
Yeah,
So
the epic nose spray was hilarious.
yeah. So where was I? Yeah. So where I kind of fall in line with both of those is when a game like Jedi Survivor gets delayed and then also releases busted. That drives me nuts. Like just delay it again and release it in a good state.
Yeah.
If you're now, it could be like these studios think that they're going to release the game, they're going to put out their 20 gigabyte for day one patch, and it's going to fix everything, and then it ends up not fixing everything and breaking everything. Whatever it is, it's just gamers bitch either way. They bitch when it's getting delayed. Yeah. They complain when it comes out busted.
Tough
so
crowd.
Yeah, it is a tough crowd. It really is.
Can I toss my hat into the ring for the Steam side of things? When you have games that sell in early access and are in early access for like 3 years and never actually like officially release.
Yeah.
You're just playing an early access game for like 4 years and you're like,
right.
They were going to actually release this? No, because we already paid you money. And why would they release it now?
Yeah, I kind of feel like the early access stuff should maybe be free or deeply, deeply discounted. Or you pre-order the game and you get access to it. You pay $5 on the $70 and you get access to the early access. But it doesn't seem that way.
They used to, but anymore in the past like post-pandemic years, like I feel like they're trying that middle ground. They're like, we won't sell it to you for 10 or 20, but we're not going to charge you the full 60, 70, so $35. Early access, we'll never finish it. Just give us a little middle ground. And
maybe they need the money to actually finish it. Yeah, that boxing game we were talking about last week is kind of in early access, and it has been for a considerable amount of time now, I think. So, yeah, I have run into that, but I don't know. I would never, even at 50% discount, I probably wouldn't jump on an early access game. There's just too much. Like there are games that are coming out full access that are busted. So I'm not going to buy a half price game. That's
again where, to Nick's point, you got to look at the user reviews on Steam.
Right. Yeah.
Because there are some where it's just like, man, the concept of this game and what they have available right now is just so slamming that like I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't care. How long did we play Valheim in early access? Like,
is this still early access?
I would hope not, because it's out on Xbox. So I would hope that it's been officially released.
Yeah, it's been that was its launch. I don't think we ever played it in early access.
Oh, really?
No, it's an early access game still.
Still?
Yeah, it's still.
And how long has it been going?
Because it's not done. That was 2021, I think.
Well, then call it.
Yeah, but you could say
service game instead of early access.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, you could carry that on for years, dude. Because that kind of game, they're adding stuff all the time. Like you can't say that it's not finished. So it's
that one. That's a little busted. It is $20, but it is a little busted that that's early access because it is effectively a complete game. Like. Obviously, we played a crap ton of it.
Like hundreds of hours.
Yeah. Wow, I have 435 hours on this game. How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, you see, Nick, when you play like 10 hours a day.
Yeah, that goes back to your it goes back to your thing where you buy one game a year and play it all year long.
Yeah, for multiple years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do we want to get into our exercise maybe that we all did or maybe that we didn't all do? Nick said provide examples.
Yeah, it was very light. It was very light on.
It was literally that.
So.
It was like provide examples.
I told you to gather them. I didn't say what we're going to do with them because mostly it was to make sure that the brains were thinking, because already we've referenced them in passing as we've kind of discussed. But I do have a specific question though. So it's like we've talked a lot about what's broken with like audience reviews or critic reviews, and Mike's kind of alluded to like when he does trust them. But like Chad, like when do you trust a critic review or value it like over the audience? Where it's like if there is a disparity between the two and the critics like either, the opposite of the audience? Like, when are you rolling with the critics on something?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty frequent, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Like I said, I just can't get behind audience reviews just because there's so much baggage with them. You know what I mean? There are people that hate the studio or the director or the actor that's in it or whatever's going on. There's just too much going on in the background. The exception being game reviews have a lot of that as well, where it's like it's not left enough or it's not this enough. So more often than not, and probably like 90%, 10%, I'm going with a critic review, especially on a game.
What
How
about
about
you,
you,
Nick?
Mike? No, how about you, Mike?
I love how we both asked
And it almost
each other at
blended
the
because your guys,
exact
yeah.
same time. Man, when do I trust critic over audience? That's the
Yeah.
question. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, never with games.
Never with games. Dang.
But I hardly look at reviews in general. So this is kind of a hard question to answer, but I'll go with critics when it's the indie movies
Mm-hmm.
generally, because most of the time, like I'll just be scrolling through the feed and like somebody commenting on an indie movie that's out there. Particularly, I have a friend on Facebook. I don't know if you listen to the show, so if I do, or if you do, and you know that I'm talking about you, I still think you're a cool dude, but I just
Your
do
piece
not
of trash.
value your opinion on any movie or show or game because it's
Oof.
always garbage. Like the worst opinions on anything that is good in film, TV, or gaming.
I kind of want to read these opinions now. This
So
dude
like
sounds
if
legit.
I'm scrolling through and I like see a movie that looks interesting to me. Again, I don't seek trailers, but if one pops up on the feed or someone posts something about it and they're like, "This is the dumbest thing ever. I just saw this movie and it was garbage." I'll go, if it's one of those indie movies, I'll go and I'll look at the reviews and be like, "Actually, this looks like right up my alley and I probably would love this." And then yeah, I'm just like, your simple, feeble mind cannot comprehend the amazing technical prowess of this movie or like the amazing artistic direction that they were going.
Dude, I was really
I'm
hoping.
sorry, Jeff. Jeff, I can't believe you think that way about my reviews.
I
This
was
is
really
so awkward now. I forgot he was behind the scenes.
I was really hoping that so I watched Nope the other night.
Nope.
And I was really hoping that I
just
was
think
going to
of
be one of the
that
people
one.
that loved it. And yeah, I didn't at all. I don't want to say it's the worst movie I've ever seen, but it might be like top 20 worst movies I've ever watched. And that sucks because I love Jordan Peele and definitely not his best work for sure.
No, that one to me, I left the theater thinking the exact same thing as you.
But then
because I went into it
a little bit, yeah.
I went into it with the wrong
yeah, I did too.
I went into it expecting something completely different because
So
it's
did I.
billed as like a horror movie.
Right.
And it's not at all. Like
Right.
It's not what they make it out to be. So with a little bit of time and in retrospect, after like realizing it's not a sci-fi horror movie and it's just like a weird sci-fi-ish, if you even want to call it that, like, well, I mean it is, but like it's more of like a thriller thought piece social commentary than it is like a straight up horror movie where you're going to go and like get scared by spooky aliens in a Jordan Peele style, which usually his horror movies are like top notch and like really great.
Yeah.
Thinking on it for what it actually is, it's not great, but it's definitely not terrible, and it's also definitely not like one of his best movies. So it's like a combination of like all the things.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you because I went into it thinking Jordan Peele horror, which I've loved his other movies, and I was also thinking aliens, UFOs. So
Mhm.
I had that opinion going into it as well, and it didn't pan out that way, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
once you get to that point in the movie, I was like, what? Like
Yeah.
that's what this thing is? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a fun time because that was one of the little movie outings we did with Joe and Civ.
Yeah,
So at least I had them there to kind of like, make fun of the movie while we were
soften the
watching
blow.
it.
Yeah. All right, examples. Is
Yeah,
it
so
example time?
let's do that. So what I did, I don't know what you guys did, but I went through and I was like, provide examples. I'm gonna make up my own criteria for examples here. So I gathered a list of movies that were obliterated by critics, but highly reviewed, or there was like a very wide gap between the reviews of the critics and audiences that I've actually watched that I liked. So this list here, very poor critic reviews, either very good or much better audience reviews that I've seen and I enjoyed. Batman vs Superman, 29% critic rate,
Oh, ugly.
not a great audience review at 63%, but a very wide gap there between those two. And like I said before, I don't know if we've done an entire episode on this, but it came up in our like top movies episode and like a DC episode, I'm sure. And I've talked about it here and there many, many times, but like one of my favorite DC movies, one of my favorite Batman movies, one of my favorite versions of Batman. Jordan sent me like like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 like bullet points of reasons of why this movie was amazing. And I'm not going to go through them all, even though I wrote them all down and he typed them all out. If you want to know, let me know and I'll tell you. But for the sake of time, that was a movie I absolutely loved. Joker, 68% critic review, 88% audience review. Another great take on a superhero movie that I particularly really liked that the critics did not for whatever reason. This one will make Nick happy. Warcraft, 29% critic review, 76% audience. But again, a movie that like I really loved. I know Nick really enjoyed. And I think universally fans of World of Warcraft and Warcraft in general, like really actually enjoyed this movie. One of those ones where it's like a little too like aimed at the target audience, so it kind of wasn't accepted outside of that. And then another example, the Netflix movie Bright with Will Smith, where it's like that high fantasy mixed with like realistic modern time cop drama movie, which sounds just super weird saying that. But this was probably the biggest gap between the critic and audience reviews. 26% by the critics, 83% from the audience. And I remember like really finding this movie entertaining. The world that they built in this movie, because it was supposed to be like I don't know if it was a trilogy, but it was like the start of a cinematic universe
Yeah.
here. They were going to spend a lot of time here. And then it got absolutely railed by the critics and they're like, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. But what they built and started with this movie, I thought was really good.
It was
Really,
different for sure.
yeah, super interesting premise and like crazy world, and just the whole concept of it was wild.
It's kind of like a modern the Amazon Prime with Orlando Bloom.
Oh, like Carnival Row.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
modern LA Carnival Row, whereas that's like
Yeah.
a
It's like
steampunk.
it's like if End of Watch and like Lord of the Rings
Yep.
like hooked up and had a baby, then you'd have Bright. So if you haven't watched it, I recommend it. But yeah, did you guys, I don't know what examples you provided, but did you have any instances of movies that maybe you don't have like the specific ratings in front of you, but movies or games that you know got blasted by the critics, but the audiences thoroughly enjoyed that you like agreed with?
Yeah, one I was gonna highlight was Uncharted, which I was surprised by. Because I didn't kind of really pay attention to what that show got to be, because I was mostly focusing on like the audience and or like gamer like sentiment on it, like just amongst ourselves. But it has a 41% critic and a 90% audience.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was really
It was, I mean, 90% from the audience?
that's what surprised me. Like
Wow.
I didn't doubt it in it, it's kind of like Transformers but Uncharted, because Mark Wahlberg and a young upcoming like other male actor, like it's the same formula as Transformers.
True.
Just Shia LaBeouf is now
Yeah, Tom Holland.
but so I didn't expect it to be I didn't expect it to be that bad either though on the critic side. I figured they would have given it its blockbuster action flick rating, but instead they decided to completely like stink on it. But I was really surprised that the audience was 90%.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, because I'm fairly, we know that I'm fairly diehard Uncharted, and
Yep.
it was like a good movie for me. Like it was good. It was passable. I think that opinion has been immediately squashed by the Last of Us series. Like it could have been so much better if they went that route. But it was good. Like I enjoyed it. Brittany loved it when we went and saw it. So
it was high enough above average to be good, but not high enough to be considered great.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's a solid, fun movie.
Right.
That's movies that fall in that range of of like review or opinion. I just classify those all as it's a fun movie.
Yeah,
you're just gonna go and watch it and have fun.
Yeah.
You're not like gonna have your brain's not gonna melt out your ears. Like nothing crazy is gonna happen. You're not gonna leave the theater a changed person.
Right.
But you're gonna have fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because shout out Mick over at like Scene Snobs, but like he on his shorts he always like kicks off, not all of them but a lot of them with it was fun. I enjoyed this. I had a fun time with it. And I always think to that like sentiment that we carry where it's like when you just call it fun, it's like, yeah, it sounds middle of the road.
It's not bad.
Right, exactly. So I never know what to think when people just kind of call it like fun or entertaining. Usually that means like I don't really critically consider it good, but I'm not going to call it bad. So I always like that's always like a nice middle of the road answer.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely a nice backhanded compliment.
Right, but there's nothing wrong with that because like Uncharted to me, that should be your response. Just like Transformers. Like if you don't walk out Transformers or Jurassic World saying that was like fun or entertaining, they missed their mark.
Right.
Like
exactly.
We tried to give you a riveting drama about the dinosaur park.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier. Or like when people are like, oh, like he's really gonna fall out of an airplane and catch a car, and then just be like, okay, yeah, we're gonna parachute off a car. Well, yeah, that's the point of the movie. It's
Jordan.
It's one. This might shock you guys, so I need you to here. Let's zoom in on me here. I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret. Get real close to your speakers or like turn your headphones up. Movies are make believe.
Oh my goodness. Jaw dropping.
Are you serious?
Jaw dropping. I didn't know that.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I always have that argument when like people won't watch movies because like animals die in it. I'm like, dude, the animal isn't dead. It didn't really die in the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Make believe, guys. So let that sink in.
I guess.
Jeff brings one up. Venom critics 29%.
Oh, yeah, that's
Audience,
on my list. Yeah, that was going to be the one that I was going to talk about. Yeah, I line up way on the audience. I loved Venom, and I hated that it was getting like review bombed or whatever, critic bombed, whatever we call it on that side. But yeah, that was one of them. That movie, it's still, I think it's a good movie and it's also fun. It's a great movie and it's also fun. So That's definitely on my list. Go ahead, Nick.
I was thinking Morbius. Like that got absolutely just like dragged through the mud. I think across the board. I didn't pick that one up, but I watched it and I was like, this isn't like the worst thing I've seen. I mean,
Yeah, I haven't
it's
seen
got
it yet.
it's got Matt Smith in it, so I can't like not like it. But
I didn't know he was in it.
yeah, and Jared Leto, and I was like, it's got the right actors playing the right roles. I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't know what everyone else showed up they thought they were going to see.
I had to go check it out then because Venom had a similar
if you like Venom
critic response. So
if you liked Venom, I would say anyone who liked Venom is going to like Morbius. It's got the same like attempt, right?
vibe
Whatever
going,
they went out to do, like that's the same thing. So I don't know what people were sweating on that one. That's the thing is like I don't know why they show up some days and they're like we're gonna like drag this thing through the mud because it didn't like make us happy. Versus other times they're like, oh yeah, Jurassic World, fantastic, or like we should look up Fast and the Furious movies, see how those are rated.
Yeah,
Fast X, let's go.
Oh wow, Fast X is actually on an ad. There's another.
Is
one.
it?
Yeah.
10.
Oh
They've
yeah,
hit 10.
Yeah.
I did not know that. May 19th. We've got to go.
Actually, here, funny story. Went to not every Tuesday, most Tuesdays, my father-in-law and brother-in-law, they like, that's their like weekly thing they do together. And I've been getting invited lately, and we saw we went to Sisu this week. Fun movie. And the dude sitting next to me, there was a chair because, like, I don't know what it's like where you guys are listening at, but here in Northeast Ohio, with Cinemark theaters, you like have assigned seats. You like buy your tickets, pick your seat. And there's a seat open between me and the guy to my left, and he had, I don't even know what it was, but he bought some kind of like Fast X memorabilia that was like in a rectangular box in a clear bag that he had sitting on the seat between us. And I was like,
at the theater?
Yeah. Like he must have
pre-bought his
did
tickets.
That before we went into Sisu.
Yeah.
And I was like, one, what sort of Fast X memorabilia deserves to be purchased? Two, like, why did you do it right before you go and watch a movie and then like sit it in its own seat? That's super weird.
Yeah, I agree with you. But at the same time, I would be overjoyed that he did that because then I would know nobody's sitting next to me.
Yes, you don't have that weird like armrest war and like cup holder thing where you're like, is this your cup holder? Can I put my elbow here? I don't know what's going on.
Dude, with the assigned seats, it absolutely ruins my movie going experience if somebody sits next to me in an empty theater. Like you had every opportunity to buy any of these other 300 seats and you chose the one that's directly next to me. Like, are you kidding me right now?
That's rough.
I had that same thought because I was like, because you didn't. I forget? Were there assigned seats before there were like online ordering? That's only a new thing, right?
I think it came with.
You used to buy tickets and you sat wherever you wanted to, right?
Correct. Yes.
Right. So so we were in the theater and it was pretty wide open, and I think we realized like we didn't have like the optimal seats. There's like something we misunderstood about where we were sitting, so we're like, oh, we'll just sit here instead because obviously the movie's about to start. It's not a full theater because it's like. It was like Friday at noon, and I was like, I'm not sweating it. So I was like, why all of a sudden? Because there's those people that do sit right next to you, and it's a completely like even empty row. I wouldn't even say an empty theater. Like even if the row is wide open, like don't just sit next to somebody. So it's like, why all of a sudden have we like because we're buying assigned seats? Do we think we have to sit in these assigned seats? If someone comes along, they're like, hey, I bought this seat. I was like, cool, I'll just move over 3 seats and. We're good. I don't know. It's just a weird adjustment there for everyone's brain.
It's like it's a double-edged sword because one, back in the day when it makes me feel so old. Like back in the day before assigned seats in the theater. Like if it was a movie that you knew was gonna be packed, like you'd have to get there like 20 minutes before the previews start to ensure that you have optimal seating, or that you even not optimal seating, just that you weren't stuck in like the very front row. So it eliminates that problem, but then it like starts this whole new host of other problems where you have like the solo moviegoers like throwing off the
Throwing
seating
everything
for
off, yeah.
groups of people where you're like,
Right.
well, the three of us can't sit in this one row because there's like a group of two and then like one and then one and then like
Yeah.
and there's three open seats in this row, but none of them are next to each other.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways,
I pulled this one out because it was an older one, and it was just interesting on where it sat. So National Treasure, right? Like, what are your guys's?
Yeah.
What's your general consensus on National Treasure? Like,
I love
never
it.
seen it.
I love it.
You've never seen it, Mike?
No.
That's crazy.
I go out of my way to not watch Nicolas Cage movies.
Oh, okay. That's fair. 46% critic, 76% audience.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize like I thought that was old enough to where it would have a little bit of the old Nicolas Cage flair because he was a big deal for a while there, but until
Yeah,
he
that's true.
completely became not a big deal. Like it kind of flipped. He went from
now he's
Face
just
Off
like a
with
mean big deal.
Travolta. Yeah.
Can I just read something that popped up in a Discord server I'm in just because it applies to Nick Cage and it's just
that's funny.
Insane. So from IGN, here's a quote from Nick Cage. Sometimes I think I can go all the way back to In Utero and feeling like I can see faces in the dark or something. Now that I'm no longer in utero, I would have to imagine it was perhaps vocal vibrations resonating through to me at that stage. So in normal words, Nick Cage remembers being in the womb.
Yes.
So of course, that's just started a whole other conversation. But do you think Nicolas Cage is actually like a psychopath, or to like put his name back out there, he's played into this character? Like he's making this mega like mastermind meta move where he's like, you know what? I said something weird one time like 12 years ago and everyone like thought it was funny. So now I'm just going to like go all in. Is he truly the greatest actor ever by playing
himself?
Nick Cage.
No, I think he's a psychopath for sure.
It's kind of like the Tom Cruise thing too. Like Tom Cruise is there to be Tom Cruise. Like he plays himself in real life, even. And I need to go see that movie with Pedro of
the unbearable weight of massive talent.
That's gonna set my opinion when I see that movie in terms of like, has he entered the meta Cage verse? Or
I don't know,
just
man.
Like a full of shit. Like
I think he's just I think he's crazy because there was one video that cemented that opinion, and it was like him doing karaoke in an empty bar by like shit faced drunk in an empty bar doing karaoke. It's great. Look it up. And I was like, yeah, dude, he's just falling off the freaking rocker, man. Like he's not playing massive.
It's the best ploy ever. Like we're all being played. He's just he's the most normal dude ever.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
It's because like sitting on his couch right now. He's like, yes.
He went from like this big time actor in the 90s, completely fell off to where he's memed to death, rightfully so, because it's like, yeah, was he any good? Like, what was this facade where like everyone's grandma loved Nicolas Cage movies and all that stuff? And then to this point where he's come full circle and all of a sudden he's like, see, I got you. I am actually amazing. And it's like, what's happening here? Because like no one's done this full like.
Yeah. Somebody needs to do a like Wendigoon needs to do like a massive deep dive into the rise and fall of Nicolas Cage and rise again of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I think it's just I think he's just crazy, man. He's bad with money. That's why he fell off.
Yeah, and then he started taking all these terrible movies. Yeah. Maybe he played so many badly written characters that like he became a badly written character a badly written version of himself. And like after acting as that person for like 15 years. He's like, this is my life now. I'm him.
Nicolas Cage.
I would line up more with that thought process than the original thought process, because I do think that he was relatively talented. There was a movie that he's great in, and I cannot think of the name of it. He's like
Arms
a
dealer?
con man.
Gone in
And he has
60
a
seconds.
no, he has a daughter. He's great in Gone in 60 Seconds. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, well, have fun sifting through 400 movies on Nicolas
Con Air,
Cage's
says Dad.
IMDb.
No, it's
Con
not
Air.
Con Air. No,
No.
it's not Con Air.
Yeah, man. We should, you know what? I
need
think
to
we
watch that
just
movie.
unearthed the massive conspiracy theory here, like in real time on Showboys. So this, that's why you guys need to be listening.
I do have one that has bugged me. And I can't-
Matchstick Men. Sorry, Matchstick Men. If you have not watched Matchstick Men, it's well worth the watch. He's great in it. He
Never
plays
even heard
like
of
a phobic, germophobic, shut in.
Yeah, you want
con
to
man.
preface
It's
that
really good.
phobic word.
Yeah.
People are
plays
throwing
like
that out there these days.
Sorry, I meant like germophobic.
yeah.
Doesn't like going outside, but he's a con man. It's really, really, really good. He has really bad OCD. He's great in that movie. It might be one of his best movies.
He plays
to
a
be honest with you.
psychopath.
He plays a psychopath.
Because he's
and
just being himself.
he's just being himself.
Oh, it's so meta.
I'm telling you, dude, he's the mastermind. So do you guys have any more examples of poorly rated critic reviews and good audience reviews
Yeah,
that you liked?
I have a couple, but they don't have quite the big gap that your guys has had. 47 Ronin has
that was such a good movie.
has a 16% critic rating and 48%
Did you
audience
say
rating. So like
16?
16%. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, I don't know what scale you guys are going off of. I'm using Rotten Tomatoes. So on Rotten
Yeah, I
Tomatoes,
think
it's
that's what
16.
most of mine were. Yeah.
So, yeah, this movie, I don't know, dude, and Nick agrees with me. Like I loved this movie through and through, and I still enjoy it. And anytime I'm on a samurai kick, it's always on the list of movies to watch because it's just one of
Holy
those fun
crap.
popcorn movies.
And a 48% audience score.
48%
It got dumped
audience
on
score.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy because I watched that movie and there are not many things. Like, I don't have any tattoos, but there are not many things in life that like inspire me to get a tattoo. Like that movie, like inspired. Like it was something near the end. I forget what it was, but I was like, that is so intense and awesome. Like
Yeah.
that movie's awesome. I
Yeah,
love
it's
that
great,
movie.
dude. It's great. And
Wow. I didn't realize it
anytime
get double dumped on.
yeah, literally anytime. And it's funny too, because it reminds me a lot of Sekiro. Like it's like a live action Sekiro movie. Like the monsters, all the different stuff that they're dealing with in there is very, very Sekiro. So
Well, I
I don't know
like,
if that's why I love
I was
it so
watching.
much.
I was like, there's things in Tsushima. I was like, this is like, there's scenes in Tsushima that are like right from
right,
this movie.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I feel like I need to watch this movie.
oh, it's good.
dude. It's yeah.
I think people just
dug
dumped
it.
on it because it's like they never watched it and they're like, what's with the white guy?
Yes,
like Japan.
that's
just
exactly.
Just like the Matt Damon China movie, The
Yeah.
Great Wall, also a decent movie because, like Ronin, like it's all about samurai and it's all about that culture and it's all about that. It has nothing to like really like the fact that some white dude from America is in it doesn't really detract from everything else they're telling.
No.
And then also because Matt Damon is in The Great Wall, like he was a trader on the Silk Road. Like they're not trying to make him a Chinaman.
Right.
They're not RDJ in this in
That's
Tropic Thunder.
That's
If you
the other one that I was going to bring up is the Last Samurai. Not nearly as big of a difference between these two, 66% and 83% audience. That's another one that got slammed for the white savior, Tom Cruise. But I'm sorry, if you think he is the savior of the movie, you missed massive parts of that movie. It's actually the samurai that saved him. So maybe you should go watch it and develop your opinion.
Say
instead
one
of dogpiling.
super hot button thing that probably probably will be taken out of context, but I'm gonna say it anyways because it's something that absolutely drives me nuts. Guys, can we? Do I need to go? Let's go. Zoom in here again. Okay, guys.
What started this?
Yeah, right.
We established one thing that's important for everyone to remember tonight already. Movies are indeed make-believe. No. This is important.
I was trying to make it bigger.
So we established movies are make-believe.
Mhm.
We need to establish the second thing. The people in movies and shows are called actors who are, in fact, acting. And if you need to know, acting is actually pretending that you're something else that you
what I
probably
hear.
aren't.
Yes.
There you go. I just felt like that was important to know. I understand the need for representation and diversity across things, but also, can we just like let good
Chill.
actors act? Like I saw
I
one
agree.
thing. I don't know if it was Bryan Cranston. Maybe it was. Played somebody who was in a wheelchair. Yeah, it was the Kevin Hart movie, right? And people like flipped out because they didn't
He's not actually in a
get
wheelchair. Yeah.
somebody who is actually wheelchair bound to play that role. I'm like, Bryan Cranston's just a phenomenal actor. Why can't he play this role? He's acting.
I agree with you to a point, because there are like the kid in The Last of Us that's actually deaf that they got to play the deaf character in The
super
Last of Us.
cool.
Super cool. But yeah, certain actors like the entire point is for them to act. So of course they're going to be playing a character, and he doesn't have to be in a wheelchair to play that character.
Yeah.
But it's a fine line. Like if you're gonna cast Tom Cruise as like a warlord in freaking Africa, might push back on it a little bit because that doesn't make too much sense.
Oh,
right?
right.
Well, I
But,
mean,
yeah,
it depends on where in Africa if we're going to get.
it was a
semantics
poor
and stuff.
example.
But
it was a poor
anyways,
example.
No, I
You get
totally
what
get
I'm
what you
saying.
mean. And like, again, like if you can find, like, okay, you don't want to whitewash everything, of course. But I also dislike the flip side where like you're changing, I guess not really like fundamental things. I saw an argument today about James Bond, right? I don't care if James Bond is white or black or Asian, whatever, but James Bond has to be a dude.
Yes.
Does
Yeah. I
Jamie
would agree.
Bond.
Yes. Yeah.
You know
I
what I
agree
mean?
with that 100%. Yeah. You can make the character 007, but he can't be James Bond, right?
Right.
Because that's just a title, the 007. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you. It's just the thing. The Last Samurai gets a lot of the whitewashing thing, and it just doesn't make any sense to me because like you just didn't watch it. He's like one of 3 people in the movie that are white, so I don't know where that's coming from, and he's definitely not the savior of the movie.
Yeah.
By any stretch of the imagination. So he's not a white savior either.
Yeah.
So
perfect. There's been some other examples here in the chat here. Greatest beer run ever. Critics 43%, audience 91%. I think that was a recent Apple TV exclusive. Super Mario 59% critic, 96 audience. Yeah, so I mean, hey, it happens. You guys have any examples of the reverse where
Oh yeah.
critic reviews were high that you agreed with while having a large gap or an extremely low audience review?
Oh yes, I do.
This one we already talked about it, but it's The Last Jedi. It's a whopping 91 to 42.
That's such a big gap.
And
I
that's the
think that's
thing.
probably
Like,
the biggest one so far tonight.
Yeah, wait, say
it's
it again. What was it?
91-42.
91-42. Holy wow, yeah.
And I mean, and that's the other thing is, obviously, it's the opposite exists way
Oh wait,
more, where the
so
critics.
the other part of my question though is, that you agreed with? Like, do you agree that that is actually a good movie and deserves a 91% from the critics?
No, but it's more rare. I feel like it, like easily you can find movies that critics womp on like all the time and audiences love, but to me, the audience score is more reliable in terms of like the nature of the movie. Okay, maybe for all the hallmarks of like a good directed movie and it being a Ryan Johnson film, yeah, sure, it's probably 91%. But like, is it a good movie in its lane? That's where I think the audience score shines and is more consistent across the board because you see that kind of line more up with how most audience I would yeah, I mean there's people that agree differently, but I feel like the audience one more like the Steam reviews are a little bit more consistent in that regard. um but yeah, there it's hard to find that disparity in the inverse, like where
Yeah.
the audience thought or where the audience thought was crap and the critics thought was awesome.
Yeah, I had a hard time. So this is something that honestly, like when we worked together, Nick, I would talk about this all the time. Like I'd come in and complain about like something being reviewed well and it actually being like terrible, or something being actually being really good and reviewed terribly. But when you brought this topic up, my like I do anytime we have a topic about anything, my mind just like erases about that subject matter. So I had to do some Googling and finding lists, and then finding stuff I've seen off these lists that I agree with. Uh, it was hard to find lists of highly rated critic reviews that audiences hated. It was much easier to find the opposite of um, highly reviewed audience movies that critics hated. But I did find one, and it's Midsummer. I love that movie. Really, really good. It reviewed 83% by the critics and 68% by the audience. So not like a massive gap. But that was the only like notable one that I saw that I actually agree with the critics. It was actually pretty good. And 68% is not a great score. Let's be honest. But yeah, that's the only example I could find. Like,
And to to talk about Rotten Tomatoes really quickly, my nephew pointed this out, and what he said to me, and it really blew my mind, is he said that I just realized that 100% on Rotten Tomatoes is a good thing. And like I thought about that for a moment and I'm like, holy crap, I think you're right. Because the site is called Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So if it's 100%, you
Yeah.
think they would
It's
say it's
100%
100% rotten.
Yeah.
that's actually a great point.
That's a
I'd never
great
thought of
freaking
it that
point.
way, but like it makes sense.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you're rating how rotten something is, but they're like completely backwards on that.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I have one, maybe two. I haven't really developed my opinion on the second one yet, so I can't say that I agree with it. But Ad Astra, which is a Brad Pitt space movie.
I saw that on a lot of lists.
Yeah, 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, 40% on the audience review. I actually love that movie. I watch it pretty frequently. I don't know, it's just a cool sci-fi space movie. I think it's really, really well done. And then the other one, and this is the one where I don't know where I land on liking it or not, but it's The Green Knight.
Yeah.
And it's 89% and 50%. And I think I probably lean more with the critics. I think I enjoyed it quite a bit. But it wasn't like the mind-bending, awesome movie I thought it was going to be, but I still really enjoyed it. So
those are both movies that I've wanted to watch. I remember when Ad Astra came out, I was like, oh, that looks sweet. Like, I really want to see it. Never got around to watching it for whatever reason. And then saw a lot of the pushback that it got. And I'm like, oh, maybe I won't check it out.
I don't get it.
I just want to, I should watch 47 Ronin, and I should watch Ad Astra.
Yeah, you should definitely check out Ad Astra because I think that, and for sure 47 Ronin, but Ad Astra for sure because I think it's really, really good, dude. It's not, don't go into it expecting Interstellar. You're not going to get Interstellar out of Ad Astra. You're
Mhm.
going to get like a cool, somewhat in quotes, realistic future space travel movie. So,
Nice. And Brad Pitt.
and Brad Pitt,
on
which is
there.
always a plus. Yes.
And Green Knight I've wanted to watch. I just didn't get around to seeing it in theater, and now I'm not sure where, even though I can easily Google it, where I can stream it.
Yeah.
Joe says Mario was such a bad movie in my opinion, but the experience was wonderful.
Really?
If I had to write a review, it would not be good, but it was so enjoyable and I loved it.
Can never tell when he's being serious or not.
I
'Cause
know.
if he is being
So-
serious, he might be the first person that I've said that wasn't a good movie that I've heard say that wasn't a good movie because
The way I interpret that is his critic review is it was horrible, but his audience review was it was awesome.
yeah.
He's wearing two hats there, and I think
Yeah,
that's what that reads as. And maybe all critics need to like just put that sub note, like, as a human, this movie was great. As a critic,
As a critic,
But
yeah.
critically speaking,
it was a
deserves to
bad
be in the dumpster.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah, actually that makes a lot of sense. Man, I also want to see because I know Chad's opinion on this movie, but I want to see what my opinion on this movie is. And that is Nick receives a point. Look at you.
Cha-ching.
You're now the Ugly Kid Joe Cross interpreter.
Yes.
So any comments that kind of have me and Chad confused a little bit, we'll just run it through our Joe Cross interpreter over there. But yeah, I really want to watch The Northman because I know that Chad hated that movie.
Dude, it's just one of the
But
worst
so
movies.
again, it's one of those ones where like I don't think I would listen to any review because it seems so right. Tailor made for Mike.
It might be, dude, but I think 20 minutes into that movie, you'll be like, what the hell am I watching right now?
Yeah, that was the vibe I got. That was one, that and another one are like kind of confusing to me, and like just how they occurred, because that one I was like, on paper, like visually, not seeing any kind of trailer, I was like, this looks cool. Watch trailer, I'm like, dude, this looks like crap just from the trailer. And I knew it. And everyone else, you guys were all like hyped about it, not you, Chad, but like Mike and like Co and like Civ, I think, was really excited about it. I'm like, dude, that trailer, I see where this is going, and it looks straight doo-doo. And then Chad was like, yeah, it's bad. And I was like, okay. It's like there's that. And then I did want to talk about Andor for a moment.
Yes, I love Andor.
So Andor is a collective 90, because they do it by episodes with shows, so you can't get like too detailed at the face value, but collectively 96% critic and 86% audience, right? So the issue I have with Andor is, while that is really good numbers on the surface, I'm missing the like resounding echo from like people I know that thought it was awesome. Like from everyone I know, and also from what I see online from like just like people, it's like so 50-50. And also
but
there's not enough there. Like if it's that good, where is like
it's the
everyone
silent
at?
the classic silent majority that aren't reviewing it that loved it. I am in the process of trying to get through Andor. To get to Andor, rather. I'm trying to watch Mando.
Long process.
Well,
I'm in the process of working my way that direction. I want to finish Mando first, but
the first half of everybody that I know loved it and like thought it was like some of the best Star Wars like we've ever had. The other half are you, Chad, where like you're struggling to get through it, and or for Andor. I had one friend was like, why are they making a show about this completely like B character that like no one cares about? I'm like, what did you just say? Like,
and then you executed that person. And,
yeah.
I was like, that's not hitting the internet polls at all. Like, gonna cut that person out of the.
I just need to get over the Andor hump. You know what I mean? I got to get through those I'm sorry, dude, but the first couple episodes are just brutally boring. And I'm hoping that it gets better. And you guys have assured me that it does get better. So
Dude,
I'm
it
hopeful.
has like 3 of the best dialogue scenes in all of Star Wars.
Wow.
Let alone, dude, the
Steve,
writing is
did
nuts.
you guys, I know, Mike, you don't watch trailers. And it's May the 4th, so we need to talk about Star Wars briefly. Did you watch the Ahsoka trailer at all?
Yes. I'm
Dude,
so excited for this show.
Wait, man. It was so
Shredding.
as soon as I saw freaking Chopper and oh man, I can't. Even though I knew it was coming, and Thrawn. Oh,
Poor
dude.
Zeb. No one cares.
Hey,
about
we saw
Zeb,
him.
apparently.
Oh, never mind.
Is that Zeb?
Did you see it?
Yes.
So okay,
is
yeah,
that supposed to be Zeb or
that's
just
him.
the
same voice actor?
Okay.
Credited on IMDb for Zeb in both Rebels.
I didn't know because that race is popping up a lot. Whatever race
he's like the only one left.
Yeah, because Cal's like master was the same race. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's
Order.
Before Rebels, right? Fallen Order.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, but we got Zeb. Hopefully, he reunites with the crew and Ahsoka at some point.
It's such a it was like almost such a passable scene though. Like he's there for like 15 seconds.
I got so
he's just drinking at the base.
Yeah,
getting sloshed.
But dude, I can't wait. I have concerns with the Sith-esque characters in the trailer.
That'll be interesting.
I want to know something because their lightsabers don't look red to me. I don't know if it's an editing thing or if it's an on purpose. They're supposed to be orange and not red. They might be red because there is a character in the trailer with a double, which might be an Inquisitor or something with a double-edged saber that is red. No, not the Russell.
Yeah, no wonder. I was wondering why that guy looks so familiar.
Yeah,
so right. It's like Russell Crowe's
brother.
It is.
Oh,
I was like, who let it?
So good.
Who let this mildly younger version of Russell Crowe in here?
Are we getting a live action Ezra?
Yeah, he's already been cast.
He's already been cast. I was a little surprised we didn't see him in the trailer, but we did get Chopper. I love Chopper, man.
Yeah.
And they're not in the Ghost, which I found a little concerning. They're in like something else.
Yeah, you got Hera, you got Chopper, you got Sabine.
Sabine. I totally forgot about Sabine. Yeah.
I'm hoping it's a 12er like Andor and not an 8er like Mando.
Yeah.
And I hope they're like Andor length too.
Yeah.
Are those longer?
Yeah.
Andor episodes are longer. Yeah, the Mando ones have been decently long. The ones that I've watched,
a little better.
They're a little bit better.
Mando. I follow this Instagram account. Absolutely shreds Mando to pieces, but like loves it, right? Like Star Wars fan loves the show, but like just shreds the like stupid shit that happens in this season.
Yeah.
And like I'm always like, that is like these are such good points. Like I can't say you're wrong. Like there's some really dumb stuff that occurs.
Yeah, I mean I agree with you.
Have you finished Mando?
So far? No, not yet. I'm on like episode 4 or 5 maybe.
Nitpick the jetpack usage in this season. It's
okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, and I just want to throw out there that of course, it's probably a little late for this, but we didn't have to limit our conversation on movies or games, but like we did end up getting a nice blend of the two, which I was excited about because the review paradox, as we've named our episode tonight, applies to both. So I'm glad that both came up. I just didn't think to search that when I was getting my notes and stuff ready. But yeah, is there anything else that we need to talk about or get off our chest tonight? Or
no, I think that runs its course. The like follow-up topic of this that would be super divisive is like breaking down how stupid the social commentary review format is.
Yeah.
So chat can get like really angry.
Oh yeah, I'll rip it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Patreon episode.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I think we made enough spicy comments towards certain things tonight to save that for another episode. But honestly, I think the big takeaways, besides my 2 bullet points, which I hope you guys remember if you didn't go back and rewatch.
I made bullet points.
Yeah, movies are make
Microsoft?
believe,
Oh yeah.
and actors are paid to pretend to be things they're not. The third big takeaway that you guys really should grab a hold of is our currently ongoing and forming Nicolas Cage conspiracy theory on whether or not he is duping us all and he's the most normal dude on the planet. We'll keep you updated on that. Yeah, so I guess subscribe if you aren't. And if you enjoyed the episode, that would mean a lot to us. You can head over to patreon.com/showboyspodcast. Check out ways to support us. You could head over to showboysmedia.com and just browse our backlog of content and other things on our website. Next week, we will have another fun topic for you. And we hope to see you then. So have a great night, guys and gals.
Leave a review.